be doing my August wrap-up. So in August, I read 5 books this month, which is like half of what I read last month. But that's okay. It was a pretty lukewarm month for me. I read The Coroner's Daughter by Andrew Hughes, The Perfect Couple by Elin Hilderbrand, The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware, and Again the Magic by Lisa Kleypas, and then the last one was The Troop by Nick Cutter. So I'm going to start from the beginning and go through them. I'm going to talk a little bit about them, and then throughout the month you'll see my actual book reviews that are a little bit longer format for those come out. Okay, so the first one was, so I said this was a lukewarm month because honestly, I can barely remember any of these books. Like, I was going back, looking into my notes for what I had for all of these books, and I remember so little about every single one of them, and it was only a month. So that should kind of tell you how I felt about them. The first one was The Coroner's Daughter, and this was actually one I heard on audio. I got it through Chirp, which if you don't know about it, this is not sponsored content. They're just, I really like them. You can get some really good deals on audiobooks. If you don't know about it, check them out there. So I got this one. It was, it is a historical fiction, which I really like. So this is actually set in Dublin, Ireland in 1816, and it follows Abigail, who is the daughter of the coroner. And this one actually should have been really interesting. There is a murder, there's a murder-suicide. You're not really kind of sure whether it was a murder or a suicide. And so you kind of follow Abigail as she sort of does her own somewhat investigating, because this was not proper at the time. And so honestly, I will say the thing that got me about this one that I actually didn't care about was that they're stuck to a lot of societal norms because it is set in 1860, that for me, just actually, as opposed to a historical fiction that I would normally really love, this one just felt boring. And that's just kind of how I remember feeling about the book going through. So you're following Abigail as she kind of encounters different people. She gets in trouble at one point in the beginning, and it's literally just because she's caught doing something that a young woman shouldn't be doing on her own. She kind of instigates a little bit of the actual murder-suicide plot, but just from what she knows, she's very comfortable with death, obviously, because of who her father is. He's the coroner of the town. And so there's a little bit of a plot. There's actually a secret society in this one that does, all of these things would be so interesting. And for me, it just kind of wasn't. I ended up giving it 3 stars at the end because towards the end I did enjoy it, but honestly, this was more of a 2-star read for me. So that was The Coroner's Daughter by Andrew Hughes. I do think actually a lot of people would really enjoy it. I think for me it was just, I don't know, maybe I just wasn't into it when I was reading it. I probably picked this one. I probably pushed through this one when I should have set it down, come back to it when I was a little bit more ready to read that. I don't think it was as bad as I thought it was, and really it wasn't bad. It was just kind of slow and boring. Moving on. Okay, so the one I read after that was the one for my book club, and it was The Perfect Couple by Elin Hilderbrand, and honestly, I actually really enjoyed this one. So this one was it is actually, okay, so I've done some research about it. This was the book that was chosen for my book club. I did not select this. Someone else selected it. But actually, I really ended up enjoying it. I read it really quickly. It follows this wedding in Nantucket where the maid of honor is discovered on the beach basically the morning of the wedding. And it follows both the police chief and pretty much everyone that was involved in the wedding. And it sets up the couple that is to be getting married, and the perspectives differ from all of the different people. From what I know of Elin Hilderbrand, she's the queen. I think she's known as the queen of the beach read. All of her stuff is set in Nantucket. This was also set in Nantucket. It's just all of the characters were really cool. I also really don't like stories where I can guess the ending, and I didn't get this one. I was almost a little bit upset by the ending for what it was, but honestly, it was great all the way through. And the fact that I didn't get it made it even better. It gave you a lot to think about. There's so many red herrings in this one. It was so much fun. It was a super great, fast summer read. It wasn't anything exceptional, don't get me wrong, but it was so much fun. It was great. And the reveal at the end it's a good one. Honestly, it's a really good one. So I think I gave it 4 stars on that one because it was great. After that, I struggled through The Woman in Cabin 10. So I've been reading some more thrillers lately, and I kind of like to, like, you can see just in the things I read, I like to flip around with different genres and different things I read because I get bored. Like, I am a super mood reader. I get just bored of reading the same thing all the time. Sometimes I'll go through periods where I read a lot of one genre, and sometimes that's nice. Right now I feel like jumping around, so that's kind of what I've been doing. So the one after that was The Woman in Cabin 10. I'd been checking out Ruth Ware a little bit more. I've just been hearing a lot of the Turn of the Key, the Lion Game. I heard great things about The Woman in Cabin 10. It really was it really wasn't great for me. I found this one to be interesting, and I was hooked the whole way through. And it follows this girl named Lauren, or she goes by Lo, and she's a newspaper reporter who, basically the story opens up with her home being burglarized and her being inside the home. So there's already a little bit of trauma from that. And then she is a newspaper reporter for this travel magazine she basically gets lucky, and because her boss is currently pregnant, she happens to get this ticket on this exclusive Norwegian yacht, like super luxury yacht. So she goes on this press tour, and on this yacht there's a situation that takes place where it seems like she witnesses a murder. And the rest of the story basically is just kind of her unraveling whether it is a murder and all of the players involved. It's obviously a whodunit. There was nothing wrong, I felt, with the plot. I thought the plot was actually pretty good. Well, I actually enjoyed the plot. Let me tell you where the book failed for me. Wow, the main character was so annoying to me. Just so annoying to me. At some point her life is at stake throughout the book, and man, I just remember reading that whole book like, man, I have never wanted a main character to end up dead so badly. Like, I just wanted her to shut up. I felt so, like, I could understand, I get why she was I get why she was like that in some ways because of, the trauma and everything set up, but like, wow, she was just so irritating. Just so irritating. And then some of the parts where I'm like, okay, really, like, not my favorite. So I was really expecting a lot more out of that. That was honestly 2 stars. Like, just, wow, that girl was so annoying. Just so annoying. Okay, after that, I read Again the Magic by Lisa Kleypas. So last month, I read through the whole Hathaway series, which is, I believe, 5 books, and then there's like a little novella. I didn't read the little novella. Well, maybe I'll read that later. Who knows? I'm not sure. This time, I looked up Again the Magic because I like to read series in order. So I was like, okay, I really enjoyed the Hathaway series. Let's see what her others are like. I didn't love this one as much as I liked the Hathaway series. I just kind of found that the premise on this one was really, like, the main character was her own impediment in this one. And it just felt like, I don't know, the plot on this one felt like a little bit loose. So anyway, let me tell you about this one. This one follows, what is her name? It's Lady Elaine. And this is actually, so if you read the Hathaway series, these are the Westerlys. They're their neighbors in Hampshire, basically. And it doesn't have really anything to do with the Hathaways from what I remember. It's its own standalone story. So it's Lady Elaine, and when she's young, she grows up with this boy named John McKenna, who goes by McKenna. And she pretty much falls in love with him when she's little. They get caught in their, like, young not adolescent years, I guess they're like 18, 20, something like that. But they end up getting caught together, and the father sees him and pretty much sends him away. So years later, then there's like an accident that takes place, and it affects Lady Elaine. Because of that accident, she's kind of closed herself off from the world. She ends up having this relationship that's a entirely platonic relationship with a friend who has like a certain secret, and there's a reason why they've not been married, and also she's always been in love with McKenna. McKenna ends up going, he basically makes something of himself, and this all happens very quickly. So he makes something of himself, becomes incredibly wealthy, makes a fortune in America, and he ends up coming back. So the book is largely set with McKenna and his business associate coming back, and his business associate is George? I don't remember his name, but anyway, he and the sister have sort of a thing. This was actually kind of cool because you got both both sisters had their own love line in this one. This one did not have... This had very actually few smutty scenes, and there was no issue one way or the other as far as the smut goes, or honestly, my issue was like the whole plot for this one, because of the accident and what happens in the accident, Lady Elaine is sort of shaped by that, and I just found it, like, she is her own impediment, and I just found it so kind of stupid, honestly. So it was okay, not my favorite. Finally, I finished with The Troop by Nick Cutter, and this was absolutely 5 stars. So this was one, thank God, I actually finished this was one that, thankfully, at the end of the month, I finished on something that was such a high note. This was so good. So good. So this follows, this is a true horror, and I'm going to say on this one, normally I'm kind of like, you kind of need to do your own research if you feel that there are certain triggers that you have, but with this one, it is grotesque in some ways. Like, don't get me wrong, it is incredible. The way it's written is really cool, but it is a strong horror, it is body horror, so if that is not something that you're comfortable with, and actually something that I didn't know about that actually it really wouldn't have made a difference as far as whether I'd read it or not, but there is some cruelty to animals or some graphic scenes with animals here, so be aware of that going in. However, it was written outstandingly, and I say it is grotesque, like, it is horrifyingly it's written really cool. So it follows this basically Boy Scout troop in their, like, as they're kind of going into, like, young adulthood, sort of, right? This is kind of like the last hurrah. And it's them and their troop leader on Prince Edward Island, where they essentially are come up on by a Slender Man figure who basically is, like, infected with this modified tapeworm that completely eats you from the inside out, and it gets into your skin through any open any hole in your body or opening of any kind, and then it's what takes place on this island and what happens to this troop and what happens to the boys. This to me was like Lord of the Flies. Okay, so as I was reading this, like, it's like this was like the Lord of the Flies that maybe you would have wanted to read. It is so horrible in what happens, and you get all of the different personalities of all of the boys, and there are some that you get everything, and their internal struggles, you get a lot of their backstories. It's also written in a really nice way where there's, like, interludes. So all these interludes are flash forwards told in interviews, newspaper articles about the way that, or about how the rest, like the main continent essentially, is both seeing it or handling it. That I loved. It was also something that kind of takes you out of the story and gives you somewhat of a breather where you need it in certain places. There's some absolutely disgusting things in this one, but it's written so well. It's outstanding horror. I mean, just outstanding horror. For all of the horror that I've read so far this year, this is the only one that is legitimate horror. I mean, it was outstanding. So if you can stomach it, read that one, because it's incredible. It's incredible. It is scary. It is gross. There's also certain things in it, like, it's emotionally gripping. They really take you there with a lot of these kids and their backstories and everything, which I did not expect at all. I don't really know what I expected going in. I expected the body horror. I didn't know about the animal scenes, but I get why they were there, and everything that was there felt relevant. It didn't feel like any of it was taking you to a point just to kind of exploit that, either emotion or exploit the gore or anything. Everything felt purposeful and relevant and necessary. I just can't say anything but, like, great things about it. So I'll probably talk more in depth about, actually I'm going to talk about more in depth about every single one of these, but you're going to see those later up in the month. So thanks for being here today. That is my August wrap up. If you've read any of these and feel like, I imagine a lot of people, I don't think my opinion is super popular on the Woman in Cabin 10. I think a lot of people really enjoyed that one. But let me know what your thoughts are. All right, I'll see you guys next month. Or I guess next time. Don't wait a month. I'll see you guys next time. Okay, bye.